The Michigan Soybean Promotion Committee is proud to offer this weed control video featuring Dr. Christy Sprague of Michigan State University.
So as we're out here today, we've got a few different pointers that we want to look at for having good, effective post-emergence weed control. Obviously, one of the important things to know is what weeds or what different kinds of things you're trying to control out in the field. For example, if you're in a soybean field and you see a lot of volunteer corn, making sure that you have the correct herbicide in there to be able to control the volunteer corn. The other thing I want you to think about is while you're out there, a couple other tips is making sure that you get good coverage, and a lot of that might have to be with what gallonage you're using, and a few other tips. As we get applications closer to early morning or late in the evening, a lot of times we can see some reduction in effectiveness of some of our herbicides. So again, there's a lot of things to think about: wind speeds, herbicide rates, all sorts of stuff, but those are some of the things we want to kind of focus on before we make those post-emergence applications. As we start looking at some of the herbicide-resistant weeds that we have popping up around Michigan, particularly glyphosate-resistant weeds, we do have some soybean traits that we can use to help control some of those weeds. For example, we've had Liberty Link soybeans, but we also have the Roundup Ready 2 Extend soybean system. With that, growers are able to use dicamba over the top of their soybeans, but with that there are also some challenges. There's a lot of restrictions that need to be followed, so keys as far as wind speed, what crops are downwind from your application. There's also some buffers, and then some pretty strict guidelines as far as types of nozzles and mixtures. One of the things we want to be aware of is when we're using dicamba in the Extend system, and again, there are only 3 labeled dicamba products. Those are Extendamax, Fexapan, and Ingenia that can be used. Tank clean out is extremely important, especially on sprayers that are going to be going to other types of crops or the non-Extend soybeans. So one way that applicators and growers have gotten around that is with some of these direct inject systems. So we have a sprayer behind us that has a direct inject system to basically where they can directly input the dicamba in there, and that also helps them to be able to do some of those buffer areas that would not be able to have dicamba in that situation. So a lot of our post-emergence herbicide applications have happened, so it's really time to take a look at those fields and see how well our post-emergence applications worked. One of the things that we always want to look out for is some of these weeds that have become resistant. For example, glyphosate-resistant water hemp or Palmer amaranth, or also horseweed. In some cases, there might be some options where we might be able to apply, but again, it's going to be very particular about what stage those soybeans are at. We do have some cutoff labels on a lot of the herbicides that we can use, and then also what the weed species is. So those are a few things you want to keep track of. The other thing you want to think about is, let's say you do have a couple escapes. Keep an eye on those escapes, and if for some reason you think that those are resistant, one thing you might want to do, if you have things like water hemp and Palmer amaranth, you might want to try to get those out of your field so you don't see those spread. If there's any way that you can maybe isolate some of those plants and collect those for seed, those could be sent into the MSU Diagnostic Clinic to basically look at to see if they're resistant or not. But again, a lot of times we want to make sure that we get those weeds out of the field so we don't expand those populations.
Be sure to hit the subscribe button to see more soybean production videos, and check out the links in the description box below for more information on soybean weed control.